Romance of Sui and Tang Dynasties Chapter 37.
So let's get to the heart of it. Emperor Yangdi. The source points to two specific policies that, and I love this phrase, that poisoned the people, to du bishing. What were they?
It's so specific. It wasn't just general bad governance. The text singles out two things. First, this relentless program of earthwork construction.
So canals, palaces.
Canals, palaces, sections of the Great Wall, just these enormous projects that demanded endless conscripted labor. The Timuzi Gun.
And the second policy?
Military affairs. Bingei's Shi. Think constant, hugely expensive, and frankly, failing military campaigns.
Especially against Korea, right?
Exactly. Dragging men from their homes, their farms, for years. Many never came back.
So it's a dual catastrophe. You either send abroad to die in a war, or you stay home and are worked to death on a construction project.
That's it. You've hit it. The text says these policies just stripped people of everything, their wealth, their physical strength, and it leads to these heartbreaking images.
Bones in foreign lands.
Bones in foreign lands, and the suffering of orphans and widows back home. The source makes it so clear this wasn't an unfortunate side effect. This was the direct outcome of the emperor's policy.
A dynasty, just totally out of touch. And while all this is happening, while the state is literally dissolving, the emperor is, what? Playing with seals.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? He's performing these futile political rituals. He has his son adopted by a favored consort, thinking that'll secure the lineage. He has a jade seal engraved.
The stone fortress of stability, I think the text calls it.
Yes, a complete fantasy. He's trying to build security out of superstition while the real foundation of the state is turning to dust.
And it wasn't just him. The rot went all the way down the chain of command.
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial point. At the local level, you had officials like Yuan Vi and Yuan Kai. They were the ones actually enforcing these policies, collecting taxes with extreme prejudice.
With severe penalties.
So severe that even people who started with wealth were forced into ruin. The law itself was turning productive citizens into bandits.
They had no choice. They're driven from their homes, looking for a safe haven, this mythical peach blossom spring.
A place to hide from the state. But the source is clear. There was no such place left. The state's reach was everywhere. So the search for peace became the act of rebellion itself.
Which is the perfect segue, because if you look at the map of the rebellion that the Yanyi lays out, it's not one fire. The whole field is burning.
It really is. It shows you this wasn't some localized peasant problem. The state was fracturing everywhere all at once.
Let's just tick off a few of the big ones. We have Zai Rang at Wagong. Why was that so important?
Wagong was so strategic. It's near the Grand Canal. So they could choke off the north-south supply lines. They became maybe the most famous of all the early anti-Sui forces.
And then you've got guys like Zucan and Chengfu, Gao Kaidao way up north in Beiping.
And out west, you have Li Gli in the Hexi corridor, which is a vital strategic choke point.
When you add in Lu Wuzhu in Finyang, Shaoxian down south in Jingling, it's clear the government has lost all control. The empire is just a collection of warring territories now.
Exactly. And the source makes another interesting point about who these rebels were.
Right. It wasn't just one group. It was former officials, common people, soldiers.
Yeah.
A real mix.
A total mix. And I find this part fascinating. It says there were still a lot of mountain heroes, the big names who were just watching the timing.
They were waiting.
Which implies that all these other groups, as numerous as they were, they didn't quite have the legitimacy, maybe. The heavy hitters were waiting for the right leader to emerge.
Which brings us perfectly to Du Xian. He's one of those guys, lying low, the country's on fire, and he's hiding out at Erxian's Huang, Two Sages Village, with his friend Shen Jianxin.
And they've been there for over 2 years, just trying to stay out of it. Shen Jianxin, he really respected another hero, Qin Shubao, who was also avoiding the chaos to care for his mother.
So there's this sense of, let's just wait this out, let's not get involved.
Very much so. Shen Jianxin was actively discouraging any talk of fighting. And the narrative really lingers on this moment of peace Du Xian has.
Yeah, he's just watching the laborers, the creek. The text says his body and mind almost forgot fame and profit. He was actually thinking about retiring for good.
That fragile peace. It's the one thing the state's failure has now made impossible. And history is literally about to come crashing through the door.
In the form of Sun Anzu. What an entrance.
It's an incredible character introduction. This tall, rough-looking guy shows up, and before he even speaks to a person, a hunting dog comes at him.
And he doesn't just fend it off.
No. He dodges it, grabs its hind leg, and just flings it into the creek.
Wow.
Violence just arrives and throws the piece into the water.
So the workers, they see this, they confront him, and it goes about as well as you'd expect.
He's not an ordinary guy. He knocks the first one down instantly. 4 or 5 more rush him, and he just demolishes them. The text says they're scattered like fallen petals in flowing water.
It's so poetic, but so brutal.
It's a signal. The time for quiet is over. This man has controlled chaos.
And Dujionde has to step in, physically stop him, and that's when he recognizes the guy. It's Sun Anzu, an old acquaintance.
An old countryman. And a man with let's say, a reputation. He has an alias. Muyanggung.
Which means?
Roughly, the duke who touches sheep. Or, less politely, the duke who steals sheep.
Okay, you have to tell us that story.
It's a classic story of desperation and revenge. He stole a sheep, he was caught, but the magistrate didn't just punish him, he publicly humiliated him.
Big mistake.
Huge. Sun Anzu's response was to grab a knife and stab the magistrate to death. So he's been on the run ever since. He'd even hidden out at Dujionde's place before.
And why did they get separated? This part really shows you how intrusive the state was.
It does. They had to split up because the emperor started a nationwide search for embroidery girls.
Basically, conscripting young women for the court.
Yes, and Dujionde had a daughter. To protect her, they knew they couldn't stay together. They had to go their separate ways. The state's greed literally tore their friendship apart.
So Sun Anzu wasn't just wandering randomly. He knew where to go.
He had intel from a mutual friend, a guy named Qi Guiyuan. He's the one who told Sun Anzu that Dujionde was probably with Shen Chongsheng.
And this Qi Guiyuan, he's also on the move.
He is. He's off to find another hero, Li Xuansui. It shows you this whole underground network is buzzing. These restless heroes are actively trying to connect, trying to find the right leader.
And Sun Anzu brings that brutal reality right to Dujionde's doorstep. He says, what is it? It's not a world anymore.
That's the line. It's over. And he says people are so desperate they want to be bandits just to survive. But then he critiques the existing rebel groups.
Right, he says most of them are just gangs.
Unstable, self-interested, people who see profit and forget righteousness. He calls them drunkards and womanizers.
It's a way for the source to elevate our heroes, right? To say, these other guys are just rabble. What's needed now are true leaders.
Precisely. And that brings us to the moment of decision. Sun Anzu doesn't just lay out the problem. He offers the solution, and he forces their hand.
He tells them, if leaders like you step up, the people will follow. And then he drops the bombshell.
I've already got a base. Over 1,000 men waiting at Gaoju Marsh, waiting for you to lead them right now.
That's a powerful move. You can't say no to that. And Shen Jiangxin, he jumps at it.
He's all in. He's got that classic revolutionary spirit. He says hiding out in good mountains and good waters was never their fate.
He wants to do something earth-shattering.
Yes. For him, success is destiny. The only question is when, and the answer is now.
But Dujionde, the man who is just contemplating retirement by the creek, he's the pragmatist, the strategist.
He is, and he immediately pushes back on the numbers. Only 1,000 people. He's looking past the initial adrenaline rush and doing a risk assessment.
And he identifies this terrifying state of failure, the fear that must define the start of any rebellion.
He says they risk becoming neither king nor bandit. Wang buchen wang, ko buchen ko.
What a concept. Unpack that for us.
It's the ultimate trap. If you try to become a king, a legitimate ruler, but you're too weak, the state crushes you. But if you just stay a bandit, you lose any chance at real greatness, and you're just hunted down anyway.
You fail at both ambition and survival.
Exactly. You lose the safety of being a nobody, but you don't gain the power of being a somebody. You're just a target.
Dujionde's point is that it would be better to just stay home if you can't be sure of a decisive win. A half measure is suicide.
It's a demand for a real strategy, but of course the counter-argument, which is unspoken but hanging in the air, is that the time for waiting is over. Sun Anzu found them. The clock is ticking.
So we've seen this perfect storm brewing. The corruption from the top, the exhaustion of the people, and now the ambition of these heroes being forced out into the open.
And we end on this incredible tension between two leadership styles. Shen Jiangxin, the man of ambition and destiny, who says, let's go. And Dujionde, the man of cautious realism, who's asking, go where and with what? The Sui dynasty as just on the brink.
And the immediate catalyst, according to the text, it wasn't just mismanagement. It was the emperor's utter lack of fitness. The text is explicit, calling him a Hunjin,
Which means?
A destructive, senseless ruler. The problem wasn't just poor morality. It was disastrous economics that was, rapidly driving the population to ruin.
And the sources get specific about that, right? What were the big projects?
Two of them. First, the emperor demanded continuous repairs for the Great Wall, the Wanli Changcheng, just a massive drain on resources at the worst possible time.
And second?
He kept launching these expensive, absolutely devastating campaigns against Goguryeo.
The text, it synthesizes the consequence perfectly, doesn't it? It says it was laboring the people into self-destruction.
It was an entirely unsustainable path. And what's interesting is the narrative acknowledges that the Sui still had capable military men.
But it wasn't enough.
No. There's this great analogy they use. Even a loyal general cannot support a falling mansion.
Wow. So once the structure's collapsing, it doesn't matter how strong the individual pillars are.
Exactly. And that realization forced some painful, intensely personal decisions. We see this so clearly in the meeting between Shanshan and the rebel leader Du Jian.
Du Jian is hesitant, isn't he?
Deeply hesitant. Not because he doubts the revolution, but because of his strong personal affection for Shanshan, and this is crucial, his young daughter was staying in Jianxi's care.
That is the ultimate test, revolutionary commitment versus personal loyalty.
Yeah.
How did Jiang Xin convince him to finally move?
He gives him this piece of pragmatic counsel that just defines the whole moment. He tells Jiande that sheer personal wisdom is secondary to seizing the momentum.
In other words, if you miss this narrow window of opportunity while the Sui is collapsing, all your smarts won't matter.
Exactly. The opportunity outweighed the risk. And to seal the deal, Shanshan guarantees the safety of Jiande's daughter.
And that did it.
That did it. Once the strategy and the personal safety were aligned, Du Jian left. We even get this amazing detail about the financing of this early rebellion.
Oh, how much did it cost?
Jiangxin provided 50 taels of silver for Jiande's travel and 20 for his lieutenant. Every single ounce of that silver was an investment in the future empire.
So once the existing rebels started moving, the key task immediately shifts, right? It goes from just organizing to what?
To acquiring the best possible talent for the future.
Which brings us to a transition. We leave the established rebels and we pivot to scouting. And we find this figure, Qin Shubao, a respected warrior living a quiet life.
Right, he's literally planting flowers and bamboo, retired outside Qiyu after being discharged by some corrupt official.
And this quiet scene is interrupted by who?
By the ultimate strategist, Zhumao Gong. He shows up with a letter from his sworn brother who happens to be Xianxin.
Small world.
Very. He's searching for Qin family village and only realizes he's talking to the legendary warrior when Shubao introduces himself.
And the sources say this wasn't like a slow, tentative introduction. It was an instant connection.
Totally. High octane. After reading the letter, Shubao just declares Mao Gong one of his own. They immediately become sworn brothers, skipping all the social niceties to just dive right into the deep end.
And they spend 3 days talking.
3 days talking with livers and gallbladders revealed. Which is just a wonderful way of saying they share their deepest, most honest thoughts and purpose.
They didn't waste any time.
No, they moved from personal to political, meeting in a small pavilion where they were, and this is a quote, laughing and discussing current affairs. They went straight to figuring out how to dismantle one dynasty and build the next.
And it sounds like Malgon was using, cold, hard economic analysis here, not just moral complaints.
Precisely. His assessment of the emperor starts with his economic crimes. His lack of virtue led to this massive extravagance. The eastern capital palaces, the unbelievably expensive canal system connecting Chan all the way down to Yuhang.
And that spending, he connects it directly to the people suffering.
Directly. He notes it led to the ruin of the poor and the inevitable result of this economic destruction. People had no choice but to abandon their livelihoods and flee to the mountains to become bandits.
He wasn't just guessing. He was strategically predicting.
He was. His prophecy was that within 4 or 5 years, the world would certainly be in great chaos. They weren't reacting to chaos. They were positioning themselves to harness it.
Which brings up the central question. Who do you follow? Who do you back?
Yes, and Mao Gong is not impressed by just martial talent. He assesses a lot of the contemporary leaders, figures like Jiangxian, Wang Guodang, and he dismisses them as just commanders.
Meaning?
They lack the strategic depth. The sources say they can't plan within a tent and win 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
They're great on the battlefield, but they'd be terrible at policy and governing.
They're not looking for a general. They're looking for a CEO.
That's a great way to put it. He does reserve some judgment for a man named Li Xuansui, noting his high pedigree and that he respects the wise. But even here, Mao Gong has a critical reservation.
What was it?
He fears Li Xuansui might be too prone to self-regard, too self-congratulatory, or that he might pick the wrong advisors. This is the crucial filter for him.
So the true lord has to be brilliant, but more importantly, brilliant at using the genius of other people.
That's the key. And Shubao offers up his own ideas, naming a brave warrior and another man who predicted the Imperial aura was already settling in Taiwan. But the most important realization comes from them looking at each other.
Their own partnership.
They see how they complete each other.
Right.
Mao Gong, the strategist, he basically says, I am not as good as you in battle, but you are not as good as me in planning.
The planning mind and the conquering hand.
And they realize that their combination is the necessary foundation for a new dynasty. So the absolute priority now is to find the true lord who can best use their combined skills.
So if they're this high caliber, why didn't they just start their own thing?
Because they understood their own limitations. They knew they needed a figurehead, someone with the pedigree, and, crucially, the virtue to unify a fragmented empire.
Yeah.
They're like, high-level advisors looking for the right investment opportunity.
And that search for talent extends far beyond retired generals. This leads to, I think, the most surprising part of the sources, scouting raw, hidden talent.
Yeah, Mao Gong shares this incredible anecdote about a prodigy he found, like literally right next door.
What happened?
He says he came across two massive oxen fighting, completely blocking the road.
Yeah.
And this boy runs up to intervene. And he doesn't use a stick or anything. He grabs both horns and forces the animals apart by a full foot, holding them there for half an hour until they just give up.
Yeah.
Defeated by his raw power.
That is just astonishing strength for a child. He was just a local kid.
Just a local cowherd, a boy surnamed Luo. But the story gets even better. So after Mao Gong leaves, Qin Shubao immediately goes and finds the boy again. And what he sees is just a shocking display of natural invulnerability.
What do you mean invulnerability?
Shubao sees the boy, bare-chested, muscles standing out like cords, and he's fighting a whole gang of 30 or 40 older boys who are throwing stones at him.
Okay.
But the critical detail is that when the stones hit the boy's muscular body, they don't injure him. The sources say they literally bounce off.
Wow. So Shubao confirms it.
He secretly confirms Mao Gong's assessment. This kid has the potential strength of a legendary figure if he's mentored properly. They aren't just looking for generals. They are scouting world-changing, raw physical talent from the peasantry.
It sends a message, doesn't it? That true talent could be found anywhere.
Even among cowherds,
Huh.
the message is clear. The true lord won't just inherit power. He'll have the wisdom to identify, recruit, and cultivate talent at every single level.
So Mao Gong departs for Wagong to check on another rebel group.
And their final pledge just solidifies their whole collaboration. They make this solemn promise. Whoever finds the true lord first will immediately recommend the other.
Ensuring that this formidable combination of strategist and warrior serves the new dynasty together.
No matter who's at the top. So Qin Shubao, and he sees this. This is our introduction to Luo Shixin.
And the text describes him as just incredibly aggressive. He's telling the other bigger kids that they have to treat him like an officer.
Acting like an officer, I think, was the phrase.
Exactly. It's not just a game, though. He's enforcing this brutal little hierarchy. He makes the other boys herd the cows while he sleeps.
And if they don't?
He beats them. The source is clear. They see him as completely intractable, just pure chaos.
So Qin Shubao tries to step in, and this kid, Luo Shixin, he just stares him down.
No fear at all. He basically says, "Are you here to fight me?" I mean, the boy has zero concept of respect for authority.
And that's when the village head, an old man Zhang, he runs over.
Right, and he starts yelling at the boy, and then he gives us the context, the backstory.
Which is just tragic. His father, Luo Dade, died during a state labor draft.
Forced labor, yeah. Working on a river project, most likely. And his mother was already gone, so he's an orphan.
And this village head, Zhang, he was supposed to be looking after him, but he's just at his wit's end. He calls the boy a bad seed.
You can just feel the frustration. Here's this kid with all this raw energy, and it's fueled by anger at the state that took his father. But Qin Shubao, he sees something else.
He sees potential, not a problem.
Exactly. He steps in, offers to take the boy, even offers to pay any wages owed.
But Luo Shixin, at first, he actually refuses.
Yeah, he clings to Zhang, the only stability he knows, even if it's a rough one. But Zhang has had enough. He basically tells Qin, take him. He's yours.
And what Qin does next is just genius. He doesn't offer to discipline him.
No.
He offers him a place, a real status.
Yeah.
He introduces himself properly and proposes they become sworn non-blood brothers.
The whole 8-bow ceremony.
And the change is instant.
Completely instant. It's like Louis Shixin was just waiting for this. The sources say he already knew who Qin Shubao was. He knew his reputation.
Right, for his strength, his skill with the spear and mace.
So this isn't just a random act of kindness from a stranger. This is recognition from his hero. Qin is basically saying, I see that fire in you and I'm giving it a name.
So they do the ceremony right away.
Louis Shixin bows 8 times to Qin Shubao's mother and immediately calls her mother. Fills that void in his life.
Then 4 bows to Qin, calling him brother.
And then to Qin's wife, Zhang Shi, calling her sister-in-law. It's an instant family, a binding contract.
And the psychological shift that our sources point out here is, it's really the key.
It is. The text is so clear on this. All that chaotic energy, the fighting, the acting out.
It finds a purpose.
It gets channeled. The moment he starts learning martial arts from Qin, specifically spear techniques, that stubborn Louis Shixin becomes, and this is a quote, a well-behaved and disciplined person.
So what looked like a bad seed was just, massive potential waiting for the right mentor.
The perfect outlet. And that transformation happens not a moment too soon.
Because the state is about to come calling.
Exactly.
Right as they're training, a banner officer shows up. He's got a warrant from the Sea Route Grand Marshal.
A big one.
A very big one. Qin Shubao is being summoned. He's needed as the vanguard for the campaign against Goryeo.
This is a massive military operation, super complex sea and land routes, all the way to Pyongyang. High stakes.
But Qin's response is shocking.
He just says no. Flat out rejects the commission.
And his reason?
His duty to his family. He says his mother's old and sick and that his own strength is gone from farming. He puts filial piety first.
He even sends the officer away with 20 lang of silver and a formal written appeal. He's serious about this.
So that raises the big question, right? If your top choice for Vanguard is refusing the draft, why push it? Why not just arrest him or find someone else?
Good point. Why was the Grand Marshal so determined to get him?
Well, there are 2 reasons. The first is just practical. Qin Shubao's skill, his unrivaled valor, was seen as completely irreplaceable for this kind of mission.
Okay, so a military necessity.
Yeah.
But what's the other reason?
This is the more interesting one. It's about political philosophy. The Grand Marshal says a loyal official must be sought from the door of a filial son.
So the very reason he's refusing
is the reason they want him. The logic is, if a man is that loyal to his mother, that kind of non-negotiable loyalty is powerful. It can be redirected to the emperor, to the state. His high character makes him the perfect soldier.
It's a calculated risk. His ethics become the justification for forcing him to serve. But he's still hiding, so they need to bring in the big guns.
Enter Zhang Zutuo. He's the Kizu County administrator.
And the source material paints him as a model leader. He's righteous, he's skilled in both civil and military arts, and he actually respects the people.
And he respects Qin's decision. He sees it as a sign of high character, not cowardice, so he decides to go himself.
This isn't a threat, then. It's a persuasion mission.
Exactly. And since Qin is still avoiding him, Zhang Zutuo goes directly to the source of the conflict.
To his mother.
He goes to the mother and makes this powerful ethical argument, even bringing up the famous story of Wang Ling's mother to show how state duty can sometimes override family duty.
And it works. She's persuaded, and she commands her son to go.
And once his mother gives the order, that's it for Qin. His duty is clear now.
But Zhang Zitu is smart. He doesn't just leave it there. He provides for the family.
A brilliant move. He gives Qin 2 envelopes of money. One is for his own travel expenses.
Yada.
Is specifically for his mother's daily needs while he's gone.
So he's removing the guilt. He's ensuring Qin can leave with a clear conscience and focus completely on the mission.
It's just brilliant political psychology. And right then, you see the payoff from mentoring Louis Shixin.
Ah, yes.
The boy steps forward and makes a vow. He says he will stay behind. He will guard the family from bandits. He'll provide for the mother.
The bad seed is now the guardian of the home.
That raw energy, now channeled into loyalty and protection. It allows Qin to leave without any worries.
And with the family side of things settled, we get to the real core of the strategy.
The masterclass. Zhang Zutu doesn't just give him the job, he gives him the entire blueprint for the opening attack.
And it is.
Yeah.
Very counterintuitive.
Extremely. Zhang warns him that Goryeo troops are deceitful. They'll fortify the obvious places, but they'll leave the coast weak to try and lure the Sui forces into a trap.
And this leads to the most important instruction.
He tells them explicitly, do not attack the heavily fortified borders. Stay away from the Liaoshu River. Stay away from the Yalu River.
So, bypass the main defensive line. That feels incredibly risky.
High risk, high reward. The plan is to strike directly at a place called Bashui.
Yeah, why Baoshui?
Because, as Zhang explains, it's the closest point to the Goryeo capital, Pyongyang. It's the soft underbelly.
Hitting them where they least expect it.
It's about triggering a strategic panic. If the Vanguard hits Bashui, you force the main Goryeo army, which is waiting at the Yalu River, to pull back and defend the capital.
And that creates an opening.
A huge opening. It lets the main Sui army move in for a pincer attack. It's not about winning one battle at Bashui. It's about dictating the entire enemy response from the very first move.
A brilliant theory, as Shubao calls it. He accepts the warrant and mobilizes right away.
He gets to Dengzhou, and he's immediately given a massive force. We're talking 20,000 naval troops.
And 200 specialized ships. The source even breaks them down.
Yeah, 100 Azure Bird ships, which were fast, and 100 Yellow Dragon ships, which were more robust. A purpose-built invasion fleet.
So the whole massive fleet is now just waiting.
Poised, waiting for the final go-ahead for the Sui Emperor himself to leave the capital before they launch.
And just as a final grace note on that brotherhood, Luo Shexin walks with him for the first mile or two of his journey.
Yeah. That final farewell before duty separates them.